guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a book review video for 3 queer books that I read for the queer Blackathon that happened 2 days ago. I think I'm posting this the day I'm filming. So it happened on Friday, Juneteenth, and Saturday. And the goal was to read as many queer books by Black authors as you could. So I finished 3 things, 1 adult romance and 2 young adult novels. So I will go ahead and get to my review of the 3 books. The first book I read and finished for the readathon is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. This is my first Case and Calendar book. This one's about Felix, who's 17 and he is trans. He doesn't have his mom in the picture anymore. He sometimes lives with his dad, but then he sometimes lives with his friend in the city because he goes to this art school program in the summer, and he's super talented at art and he's trying to get into Brown. The reason I love this book is because of Felix's experiences and learning from his experiences. Felix is dealing with someone outing him as trans to the whole school, so they set up a gallery of his old pictures and his dead name, and he is trying to figure out who did it. He's trying to understand his own identity because he's still confused with his trans identity, and he doesn't know his relationships with people because he starts talking to someone that he kind of starts liking, but then he doesn't know if he likes someone else, and all he wants to do is be in love because he's never been in love before, and he's like, can somebody love me, and can he love someone else? And so he questions that a lot in this book, and he also questions his future. Why does he want to go to Brown? Why does he need to get into that art school program? Is he good enough? Feeling good enough with his art? And there was just so much complexity behind Felix's character. This is definitely a character-driven novel, I will say. The plot is like slow, but it didn't feel slow. I don't typically like character-driven novels. I need the plot to go fast. I need something to keep on happening, but I love this book. I was so invested into Felix's character, what he was going through, what he was trying to figure out, who was he, who did he want to be, what felt right. I am a straight white woman, and so I learned so much from this book and from consuming media and books about queer characters who are teenagers, especially a trans main character. I've had trans students before, so I really appreciated to get a look into their lives, and I think that everybody needs to be reading this, especially cis straight people, because I don't experience that. I don't go through it, and I think the world would be much more accepting and understanding if they read like this, because there is transphobia in here. There are characters who say really mean, rude things to Felix, and that's people in our real world. And so I loved this book so much. I loved everything that Felix went through. Everything Case and Calendar was trying to show through Felix's character and Felix's journey. It felt very personal, and Case and Calendar has a message at the end of the book about their own experience, and so I really like this. I really enjoyed this, and I think it's something everybody should be reading. Then I read American Dreamer by Adriana Herrera, and this one is a adult male-male romance, and it was really cute. So this one is between Nesto, who is, I believe, Dominican, and Jude, and it was so cute. So I listened to this on audio through my library. My library actually has all the audiobooks now, which I thought I checked like 2 weeks ago and it didn't, and now it does, so I don't know if someone requested them. But Nesto owns a food truck, and so he is new into this town because he's wanting to move closer to his parents and just see if his food truck does well. I really liked all the descriptions and how important food was in this book. And then we have Jude, who's a librarian, and he is part of like the youth services. He's in charge of it, and he's trying to get like a bookmobile at his library. My dad actually works at a library with the bookmobile, so I thought that was really cool. And I forget what they called it, but it's a bookmobile, and they meet and like instantly sparks fly, and they're really into each other, but like they're both at places in their lives where they're really busy and like don't really have time for a relationship, but they like really like each other. And I thought this was really cute, and I liked how their friends were just like cheering them on and supporting them and like wanting them to get together. And I really liked how consent was dealt with in this book, because Jude is much more hesitant than Nesto, and Nesto never pushes him. He always asks him if it's okay. Their communication was really great, and there was conflict near the end, but that was definitely understandable because they both were dealing with very stressful things in their own lives and having to learn how to incorporate another person into that stress and like learn how to communicate about it and not lash out to each other about it. And I think we all have experienced stressful things where we lash out at our loved ones because we're stressed out. And so I really liked it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, 2 out of 5 stars to start off this review video. It was so good. I would recommend it if you like romances, and it does get steamy, so make sure you keep that in mind if you pick this up. And the last book I have is one I just finished and I have weird feelings about. I did match it today. I've got purple eyeshadow, purple shirt, and purple book. It is Pet by Okweke Emezi, and this one also deals with a trans character, and it's so seamlessly integrated. It just mentions that like when Jam was little, she knew she was a girl, and then it was just like, okay. And so this one has a trans character, but like the questioning of identity and like the understanding of identity isn't in this book, so it definitely isn't Felix Ever After, but not in this one. We just have a trans character going through life, and it's fantasy, so it's a little confusing. I don't know if I necessarily would hand this to a middle grade student because it's hard to grasp. I had a hard time following the beginning because it's fantasy, but like not what you expect of fantasy. It's just like her mom's painting comes alive as Pet, and they're in this town where there are like no more monsters left because the angels have taken care of all the monsters, so there's nothing bad left. There's no racism, there's no abuse, there's no anything left. And the whole message of this book is like things don't appear as they seem. There's bad when there doesn't seem to be bad, so there is something bad in here. And so Pet comes from this painting her mom made, and Pet says there's a monster in your town and we have to find it. And so that's what this book is, and it's super short. It's only 200 pages, and I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it was very heavy. So like as soon as I finished this, I had to put it down, and I couldn't read anything for a couple hours, and I know I'm gonna pick up just a fun romance next because wow, did this get into things. Trigger warning for abuse. There's no abuse on page, but wow, was this heavy figuring out who it was, what they were doing, the circumstances around it. And so most of this book was very heavy. I really liked Jam's character and her friendship with redemption, and there's just a lot of layers to this book that I don't know a young reader would get. I mean, I don't teach middle grade students, so I am the high school level, and I do think that this would be a really good book to hand to my high schoolers because I feel like comprehension wise they would be able to grasp the complexity of this story. Now giving this to a 13-year-old, it had to be a mature, high thinking 13-year-old, so I do think though that this was a really interesting look at that kind of plot line. And I thought it was interesting because it even talked about, like, you know how right now people are tearing down statues of people that history has idolized that weren't good people, and in here it talked about how we don't have those statues anymore, and this was written last year. And so I thought that was really interesting. This definitely reflects things that happen today. I mean, it was last year, so it wasn't too long ago, but I really enjoyed this, and I did appreciate how Jam was just who she was, and that was just, it was said, and we're like, okay, that's who she is, that's part of her character. There wasn't this whole complex storyline about her being trans, so I really appreciated that. There's nothing wrong with complex stories about being trans. Like I said, I love Felix Ever After and his journey, but I liked how it was just incorporated as normal, which I think we do need more books where it's not, the pain is what people call it, so it's not like their struggles and they're being harassed and bullied. It's just, it's joy and they're finding love. And so we did have joy in Felix, but I don't know how much joy we have in here, but it is just part of her character, which I really appreciated. So I enjoyed this. It was heavy and it was kind of hard to grasp and dealt with really complex issues. That's something you really need to stop and think about. Like a couple times when I was reading this, I just stopped and like processed what was happening because there were just so many layers to what was going on, and things meant other things. It was very symbolic and metaphorical than literal. So really interesting book. Glad I read it. And those are 3 book reviews for 3 queer books that I've read. We have middle grade, we have young adult, and we have adult. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you've read these and what your thoughts on them are. I would really love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.